Hello, and welcome back to my CSEC mathematics series. And before we start this week's work, we're going to finish the problems left for you last week. So we'll start with the first one, number 1. It says you invest 2,500. So I'm just going to highlight that. I'm going to change the color to maybe a blue. Yeah, right. So you invest 2,500 at a rate of 0.4% per month for 3 years, and they're asking you what is the total amount after 3 years. So we use our formula. And we identify first all the parts. So we say principal is 2,500. Then we're looking at the rate, which is 0.4% per month. And since it's per month and we're looking at a time period of 3 years, we're going to take 3 years and multiply it by 12 per month, 12 months per year, and that will give us 36 months. Now we use our formula. The amount would be equivalent to the principal multiplied by 1 plus the rate over 100 by the amount of time intervals. So we have the amount would be equal to 2,500 into 1 plus 0.4 divided by 100, and then we have 36 intervals. Let's use our calculator for this. All right, so this is our calculator, and let's put in the values. 2,500, open bracket, 1 plus 0.4 over 100, close bracket, raised to the power of 36. Oopsie, I'm writing that correctly. Backspace, then close the bracket, and that raised to the power of 36. All right, so we get, oh, let me just set this up one time to 2 decimal places since I'm dealing with money. 2. All right, so we have 2886.38. So answer here, A is equal to 2886.38. So that's the amount that you would have after that amount of investment period. Let's go to the next one, number 2. And we will see that you open a savings account with $1,200, so that's the principal, and your bank offers a 0.75% per quarter. And then how much will be in the account after 5 years? So we just have to find out how many quarter intervals are there in 5 years. So let's put the solution for number 2. The principal is equal to $1,200. And then we have a rate, which is 0.75% per quarter. And then the time period is in terms of quarters. And we know that there are 4 quarters in a year. So that means 4 times 5 years would be equal to 20 intervals that you will get interest on. So we're looking at the amount, which will be equal to, and I'm just going to write down the values. So 1,200 into 1 plus 0.75 over 100, close bracket, raised to the power of 20. And that would mean A would be equal to, let me work that on the calculator. So let's work this out now. And we're going to have 1,200, open bracket, 1 plus 0.75 over 100, did not press the over button, over 100, close the brackets, raised to the power of 20, and we're going to get 1393.42. So 1393.42. That's how much it's going to be after that period of 5 years. Let's go to number 3. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put straight to the answer as soon as I can. I'm not going to put back the formula. So principal, so the principal is 0.6 per month and 2 years root. All right, so let's check that out again. So the principal would be equivalent to 7,000. I don't know why I put 2 equal sign. 7,000. The rate would be equivalent to 0.6% per month. And the time interval we're looking at is 2 years times 12 months per year, which is 24 intervals. All right, so the amount would be 7,000 into 1 plus 0.6 divided by 100, close bracket, 24. And your A would be 7123, close bracket, 1 plus 0.6 over 100, close the bracket, raised to the power of 24. And we get 80.71. 80.71. Let's go to 4. So number 4, the deposit is 4,500. 1% per quarter. What is after 3 years? Okay, let's solve that. So the principal would be equivalent to 4,500. The rate would be equal to 1% per quarter. And the time interval we have is 3 years, and we know that there are 4 quarters in a year. So then that means we have 12 intervals. So we have A would be equivalent to principal, which is 4500 into 1 plus 1 over 100, close bracket, raised to the power of 12. And A would be equivalent to 4500, open bracket, 1 plus 1 over 100, close bracket, raised to the power of 12, which is 5070.71. So 5070.71. That's the number 5, which is the last one. So number 5 says you invest 3,000, 0.4% per month for 5 years. So let's work on that. So the principal would be equal to 3,000. Your rate would be equal to 0.4% per month. And your time interval is 5 years, and we know that there are 12 months in a year, so that is 60 intervals. So the amount would be equal to 3,000 into 1 plus rate of 4 over 100 raised to the power of 60. Let's check that answer. So 3,000, open bracket, 1 plus the rate of 0.4 over, over 100. Then we close the bracket and raise to the power of 60. And that is 3811.92. So we have 3811.92. All right. So that is the amount that you're going to have after that 5-year period. Right. This week, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to start a very incredible, useful topic, which is something called payments by installments. And this is something that you would deal with when you're looking at hire purchase and you're looking at something like mortgage. All right. Usually what you would want to do is in my opinion, I would say what you would want to do is whatever you're paying for on mortgage or paying for on hire purchase, the amount that you save or the amount that you could gain with that item is more than what you would have to pay in interest for that hire purchase agreement or that mortgage agreement. All right. So let's get started with that. So the first thing I want you to understand is what is hire purchase and what is mortgage, because this is the main two types of installment payments that you're going to have to deal with at some point in your life. All right. So let me start off first with hire purchase. All right. So hire purchase is an agreement where you, as the purchaser, pays for goods in parts or as a percentage over time. All right. The buyer gains the possession of the item immediately, but only owns it outright when the final payment is made. So let me just write that down. The next one that we have to make sure you understand about is mortgage. So mortgage is nothing more than a loan that you would use to pay for something like property. All right. Where the property itself would tend to serve as the collateral, and the borrower will make regular payments over a set period until that loan is basically paid off. So let me just put that note for mortgage as well. All right. Now, in both cases, the payments are made over time, and the interest is usually added. So our goal today will be to calculate these payments and the total amount that you have to pay at the end of the period. So let's start that by doing some examples. All right, so this is the example. John wants to buy a laptop that costs $1,200. He decides to purchase it through a hire purchase agreement that requires a 10% deposit, and the remainder will be paid over 12-month periods, 12 monthly installments with no interest. What is the amount of each monthly installment? All right, so that's fairly straightforward and simple because we don't have an interest added on to the amount that he has to pay. So let's see how that works. Let's first start off by determining the deposit. So the deposit is equal to 10% of what the laptop is worth. So 10% of 1,200. Now again, I can go straight to my calculator. I can take this 10% of 100 and work that out. So 10 over 100 times 1,200, 1, 2, 1, 2, and we get 120. Let me show you on the calculator. So I take my 10% of my 1,200, and then I just use that percentage symbol. Notice I get 120. Okay, so the deposit is $120. The remainder is 1,200 minus that 120. Now, 1,200 minus 100 is 1,100, and 1,100 minus 20 is going to be 1,080. So I have here 1,080. That's the remainder that we have. Now, he says the remainder will be paid over 12 monthly installments with no interest added. Okay, so now that means we have to divide this by 12 to figure out the installments. So installments would be equivalent to 1,080 divided by 12, and we'll get an answer of 90. So that means that if we take 1,080 and divide it by 12, we will be able to get $90. All right, so that means $90 per installment. Good. So each Hence, each installment is $90. Now, usually on your hire purchase agreement, you're not going to pay the exact amount that the cash price is marked for. What they're going to do is they're going to charge you some interest on the amount of the item. Let's look at example number 2 and you would understand what I mean by this. All right, let's look at number 2. Maria buys a refrigerator on hire purchase. The cash price is $2,000. She pays 15% deposit and agrees to pay the balance over 24 months at an annual simple interest rate of 6%. What is her monthly installment? All right, let's look at first figuring out how much the deposit is. The deposit would be equivalent to 15% of your 2,000. Now I'm just going to work this on the calculator. So 15 times 2,000%, and we get $300. So that means $300 needs to be paid as your deposit. All right. So then that means the balance would be equal to 2,000 minus this 300, and that will be 1,700. Now we need to figure out how much interest is added on to this 1,700. So the interest, or I should say simple interest, would be equal to your principal, which is your 1,700, by your rate, which is 6%, by your time, which is 2 years, so that's what 24 months is equal to, divided by 100. So 17 by 6 by 2. 17 times 6 times 2. And our answer is 204. So the interest that she has on that item is $204. Therefore, the overall balance would be equivalent to your 1,700 plus your $204, and you would get a total of 1,904. Now all I need to do is figure out how much each installment is worth if I'm doing this over 24 months. So installment is equal to 1,904, and I divide it by 24 to find out per month. So how much money, the money goes on top per month, so money per month, and we will look at 1,904 divided by 24, and we get 79.33. All right, so she has to do 24 monthly installments of 79.33, and she'll be able to outright own that refrigerator. Now, a little bit of side note here. Look at how much she actually pays for everything. If we take the overall balance, and I'm writing this in yellow now, so if we take the overall balance and we add it to her deposit, notice that what we will get is the 300, well, this one here was 1,904, and then we're adding that to 300. Sorry if you hear any pounding or grinding in the background. My neighbor is constructing a little shed. Anyway, so this here works out to be 2,204. Notice that you're paying an extra $204. Obviously, you can tell that from the interest. You're paying an extra $204 for the item. All right, let's look at number 3. So David takes out a mortgage of $15,000. So let's say that the principal is $15,000. To buy a house, the annual interest rate is 5% per year. So the rate is 5% per year. He agrees to repay the loan over 15 years with equal monthly payments. All right, so the time period that of interest for us is 15 years. All right, because that's the interval over which you would add the rate. And then we have to figure out what is his monthly payment. All right, now he's agreed to do this for 15 years. So whatever interest they are going to charge him per year for the amount of period, we're going to have to figure out the total amount that he's going to have to repay for this loan first. So the amount would be equal to 15,000 into 1 plus 5 over 100 raised to the power of 15. 15, 1, 2, 3, open bracket 1 plus 5 over 100, close the bracket, raised to the power of 15, and we'll get an answer of 31,183.92. 31,183.92. All right, so this is the total amount that he has to pay at the end of that 15-year period. Now we want to figure out what is his monthly installments that he's going to have to pay. So this here takes place over 15 years. So amount of months in 15 years is equal to 12 times 15, which is approximately 180 months. Next, what we want to do is we want to find out how much he has to pay per month. So month is what you have to divide by. So we're going to say the installment is going to be equivalent to 31,183.92 divided by your 180 months, divided by 180. 173.24. So we have $173.24. So if he does that payment for 15 years for a month, every month for 15 years, he's going to be able to finish pay back that loan. Now look at that major difference that you have there. Now, here's the thing. You're not expected to go in there with nothing. All right. You're not expected to go in there with nothing. Sometimes what they will ask you to do is they will ask you to pay a deposit first, and then they will charge you the compound interest on everything. And they may charge you the compound interest with a monthly rate instead of a yearly rate. All right. Sometimes the period for the loan may be longer, sometimes it may be shorter. It all depends on what you can afford. All right, with that, we're finished with today's topic, and I'm going to give you some problems that you can work on. Okay, so these are the problems that you would have to do. Tomorrow, I will be doing the solutions to these problems, and if you have any questions, you have any comments, you have any issues, just make sure, any issues related to the series, just make sure and leave it in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.